welcome back to the Hannahcast YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be giving you my Writers Guild Awards predictions, my Producers Guild Award predictions, as well as even the Annie Awards predictions and Costume Designers Guild predictions, because might as well.
We interrupt this programming to tell you that channel memberships are open. For $2 a month, you can get members-only video content, from reading your comments, special editorials, small awards season updates, and more. Other perks include weekly members-only live streams, exclusive emojis, badges, and even access to my members-only Discord server. You also get your name to appear in my videos as a special thanks for your support. With your help, we can conquer the Oscar space on YouTube and rule over all. Remember, Uncle Chris needs you.
So, yeah, we're going to start with the Writers Guild Awards. Now, this is going to be interesting because, there's a lot of ineligibilities from here. In fact, if anything, you could see that they only went 2 out of 5 with the Oscars, because the nominees here are Anora, Challengers, Civil War, My Old Ass, and A Real Pain. But, however, only Anora and A Real Pain made it to the Oscars, because the other 3 are The Brutalist, The Substance, and September 5. So, really, I think, honestly, actually, yeah, there's only kind of one clear winner here, and that's Anora. Because when you look at the history of the Writers Guild of America, or at the very least, ever since the Best Picture Oscar lineup was expanded, there has only been only one year, where the Writers Guild Awards did not go for a movie that was nominated in Best Picture when they had Best Picture nominees to choose from. Yes, Borat's subsequent movie film won Best Adapted Screenplay in 2020, but as we saw, there were no Best Picture nominees in that category, so it's kind of a Wild West. But the one exception to this was 2018, where 8th Grade won Original Screenplay, which didn't even get the Oscar nomination, and Can You Ever Forgive Me won Adapted Screenplay, which did get nominated for the Oscar, but was not in Best Picture. Now, considering that was the only year where this happened, where a Best Picture nominated film did not win, when there were Best Picture nominees to choose from, really, Anora is the only film that can win here. I mean, I guess if there were a number 2, it'd be A Real Pain, but considering how A Real Pain just did not even get the Oscar nomination for Best Picture, I cannot predict that. So I'm going to go with Anora. That seems pretty easy to me. Next, we get to Adapted Screenplay, and the nominees are A Complete Unknown, Dune Part 2, Hitman, Nickel Boys, and Wicked. Once again, this has only gone 2 out of 5 with the Oscars for Adapted Screenplay, because instead of Dune Part 2, Hitman, and Wicked, we have Sing Sing, we have Emilia Perez, and we have Conclave. So that does make things a little bit easier here, because I do think Conclave's winning the Oscar, but a lot of people think A Complete Unknown is going to win Adapted Screenplay here, and I'm not so sure about that. Now, granted, a lot of people are also trying to say that Wicked's gonna win here, but no. Again, it wasn't even nominated for the Oscar. Why would that happen? Yes, we can say that 8th Grade won, but that was a rare example of this sort of thing happening. And a lot of people will try to say that they really just go for the film that's more buzzy in Best Picture, and not really. Writers Guild doesn't always do that. They do, most of the time, go for the film that is closer to winning the Oscar than not. For example, people thought Glass Onion or Top Gun Maverick was going to win Adapted Screenplay, but it ultimately went to Women Talking, which was absolutely nowhere near as strong as a Best Picture contender as Top Gun Maverick was, but it still won here. And so I don't really buy that Wicked's going to win here. Because again, was one thing we always see from the stage adaptations in Best Picture. They rarely get into the screenplay categories. And the last one to do it was Chicago, which one could argue, yeah, it won Best Picture, but also, again, keep in mind the thing I've always been saying. Chicago was a rare example of a stage adaptation of a musical doing something that really only a film medium could do, and the stage medium could not, because the whole film was bouncing back and forth between the real world and the musical world, and seeing how the musical world had metaphors of what was going on in the real world. This was something the stage show could not do. That differentiated, or I probably butchered the wording of that, that, but you know what I mean. It made itself so different from how the stage show presented itself in a significant manner. And that's why I don't think Wicked has any chance of winning here. Because even if it were nominated for the Oscars somehow, writers typically don't like it when stage adaptations are mostly just kind of word for word the stage show. And this doesn't even have to apply to just musicals. Because, you know, you could also make an argument for The Whale. You could make an argument for The Tragedy of Macbeth. You can make an argument for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And yes, one could also say, well, you know, West Side Story got nominated for Writers Guild, and so did Tick, Tick, Boom, and so did Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, but you also have to take into consideration that, one, they didn't win, and two, there were a lot of ineligibilities, so it was slim pickings, really. So I just do not buy Wicked winning here. It's just not going to win here. That's just not what writers like. Writers don't really like it when films are basically one-to-one translations of the stage show. So yes, I do think it is between A Complete Unknown and Nickel Boys. Because I don't think Dune... Now, the fact that Dune couldn't even get into the Oscars, and yet Sing Sing, which wasn't in Best Picture, got in over it, showed me that there was nowhere near as much passion for the screenplay of Dune as I thought. I'm not going to go for A Complete Unknown. I'm actually going to predict Nickel Boys. Now, one could argue, Christian, wasn't this like number 9 for like Best Picture? What are you doing? Well, that hasn't stopped movies before from winning this category. Again, look at Women Talking. That was so clearly like number 9 for Best Picture, and yet it still managed to win Adapted Screenplay at the Writers Guild of America because its screenplay was what got it nominated. The fact that the movie had Best Picture and Best Adapted Screenplay alone, and that's what catapulted it to a nomination, that makes me think Nickel Boys has such a strong screenplay that the writers are just going to eat it up. And what's another thing that writers like? They like unique ways of telling a story. They like new and inventive stories. Just look at Everything Everywhere All at Once. Just look at Get Out. Just look at Promising Young Woman. Nickel Boys really does have that kind of thing going for it, because we're seeing the perspectives of 2 kids going into this boarding school. The fact that it's from a first-person perspective is something really completely unique to films like this. I mean, obviously, it's not the first-person movie to do this, but it's very effective in the way it's done, and I'm not sure if something like this has been nominated for Best Picture before. So that makes me think the writers really, really gravitate towards Nickel Boys. So that's why I'm thinking is going to win right now, alright? Because it is just way more unique than something like A Complete Unknown, which might be considered a bit too safe, which is ironic because it literally got in over Dune Part 2. But also A Complete Unknown was having a big surge, but I genuinely don't think that surge is going to result in it winning Writers Guild. If it does, oh my god, watch your ass, because maybe there's a chance. Well, then again, I don't know. If A Complete Unknown won here, I'd still think Conclave is winning Adapted Screenplay at the Oscars, but if Nickel Boys wins here, then, ooh, we could be in for something. Because what's another thing that Nickel Boys could win? It could win the Critics' Choice Award for Adapted Screenplay. Now, I am officially predicting Conclave for Critics' Choice. If Nickel Boys wins Critics' Choice and Writers Guild, I would have to seriously consider if this film can actually win Adapted Screenplay at the Oscars. Because clearly, the screenplay alone is what is catapulting this film into a Best Picture nomination. And again, given the fact that it's such a unique story and a unique way of telling that story, I could definitely see that happening. So yeah, for Writers Guild, I will be predicting Nickel Boys. I remember there was a time and point where people were saying Hitman was going to win. In what world would Hitman win? In what world? I never bought that. I never understood that. Because, like, yes, it's a comedy. And sometimes the Writers Guild will give comedies the Writers Guild Award. But again, you have to take a look at those scenarios. Borat won because there was like no other Best Picture nominated films in the lineup, and also Borat was already getting a couple of nominations at the Oscars as is, one of those being Adapted Screenplay, but it also had like an acting nomination to go along with it, and it also got PGA. I'm not going to predict Hitman to win just because it's a comedy. And the fact that Writers Guild was the only place it got nominated, it's like, there's no way. It's the least likely film to win here, guys. It's just not going to win. So regardless, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Nickel Boys, that's my prediction, at least. Then we get to the Producers Guild Awards for Best Theatrical Motion Picture, and the nominees are Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune, Emilia Perez, A Real Pain, September 5, The Substance, and Wicked. A lot of people are thinking, yeah, this is where Emilia Perez is going to win, because it's a crowd pleaser. But what have I said over the past couple days when it comes to how award season has gone? People hate Emilia Perez. They hate this movie so much. Oh my god. Oh my god. So, like, I feel like, especially with all this going around, that is going to kill this movie. That is going to kill it right then and there. So, what do I think is going to win? It's kind of tough because it could be between 4 movies. It's either going to be Anora, The Brutalist, Complete Unknown, or Conclave. And that's going to be interesting because all of these movies have an argument to win PGA. Although there is one thing that's here that I did not think would be as much of a crowd pleaser, but when you look at the IMDb scores, I'm actually going to probably say The Brutalist wins PGA, which I never thought I would actually, do that. Because, I thought The Brutalist was just going to be Power of the Dog. It was going to be Roma. It's a 3.5 hour long, slow burn historical epic. It's not really going to win Best Picture. I mean, maybe not even epic. I mean, granted, you could probably argue it's an epic. But it's again, these slow burn kind of movies just don't do well on the preferential ballot. But the fact of the matter is, the movie has over 17,000 ratings on IMDb, and it's still holding an 8.0? I think audiences just love it. Audiences are really gravitating towards The Brutalist. And since Emilia Perez has already become the award season enemy of the year, I might have to think The Brutalist could probably actually win PGA. Because people are going to look for an alternative, and they might say, you know what, this Brutalist film, that's also getting a lot of buzz. We really like that film, and we could probably give it a few texts, which granted, that PGA doesn't always do that. For example, they gave The Big Short the award. But again, for something like The Brutalist, the fact that it has this much support from audiences, despite what kind of film it is, it's I actually think it might do well on the preferential ballot. And again, it's going to do better than Emilia Perez, because I just don't see how Emilia Perez is going to win on a preferential ballot when it is in a shit show as hard as it is right now. Right now, that movie is, burning in flames. So, yeah, if a Complete Unknown won here, I'd be like, oh, I guess I would also be wondering what's going to happen at Writers Guild, because the movie does seem to have broad appeal overall, and it managed to overperform with Oscar nominations. It did get supporting actress off of SAG alone, and managed to get Best Director on DGA alone. So if a Complete Unknown won here, I'll be like, oh, wow. But I'm not going to quite go there, because I feel like The Brutalist is more likely to win more above-the-line categories. And again, I feel like people are just generally not bored of The Brutalist. And it's even doing better than movies like, The Irishman or Killers of the Flower Moon. People just seem to think that this film is a lot more innovative and new. And so I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with The Brutalist. The PGA for documentary feature, all right? Well, it's interesting because No Other Land is not nominated here, and also the movie We Will Dance Again. It is pretty clear that the PGA does not really like what No Other Land has to say. So what do we do here? This isn't really going to be very useful to us at all, but my guess, I don't know, maybe they just go for Superman the Christopher Reeve story, because they will go for biopics. Or maybe not biopics, obviously, but, biographical documentaries like Won't You Be My Neighbor won, and Life Itself, I think, won here. So that's kind of what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. If there was any other film that I could maybe say to look out for, I would maybe say Porcelain War, because that is nominated for the Oscar, and if I just realized, it's the only film nominated for the Oscar, maybe it wins. And if it does win here, I'd be very much looking at, what happens over at BAFTA. Is Porcelain War nominated at BAFTA? No, it's not nominated at BAFTA. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the only film that actually was nominated here at PGA is Superman the Christopher Reeve story. So yeah, I'm just gonna go assume Christopher Reeve is gonna win here. Then we get to the Producers Guild Award for Animated Feature. Now, while I do think this is a 3-horse race between Flo, Wild Robot, and Wallace and Gromit, and yes, I'm putting in Wallace and Gromit because you absolutely know that BAFTA's gonna vote for Wallace and Gromit. Like, that franchise, between Curse of the White Rabbit and the short films, they have not lost a single BAFTA, so I know for a fact Wallace and Gromit's winning a BAFTA. So I have to say it's in competition with these three. While it is amazing that Flo got nominated here, and I am keeping my eye on that, because it is now the second non-English language film to get nominated for Best Animated Feature at PGA after The Boy and the Heron, which ended up winning the Oscar. But also, like Boy and the Heron, I don't think it's going to win PGA Animated. I think it is going to go to The Wild Robot. This doesn't really affect how I'm going to predict the Oscars for Best Animated Feature, because I already know what this is going to be. I already know what's going to happen here. But the Oscars have shown that they are willing to deviate from PGA from time to time, especially when we are dealing with an international film. And considering Flo is strong enough to not only get nominated here, but win the Golden Globe, I have to keep my eyes on it. But still, Wild Robot's going to win here. It's going to be easy, so yeah. Then we get to the Annie Awards, alright? For Best Animated Feature, we have Inside Out 2, Kung Fu Panda 4, That Christmas, Ultraman Rising, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot. As you can see, Flo is not nominated here. It's in the independent category, which we will talk about. So I think this is a very big layout for The Wild Robot. The Annie Awards did give Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Best Animated Feature over The Boy and the Heron, and yet The Boy and the Heron still won the Oscar. So it's not really as consequential as one would think, but still, I do expect The Wild Robot to do very well here. And for Best Independent Animated Feature, we have Chicken for Linda, Flo, Katsuki's Kingdom, Look Back, Mars, I'm forgetting what that film is called fully, and Memoir of a Snail. And this is easily going to be Flo. This is going to be Flo's award, and once again, it's like, considering these two are not really competing, you know, Wild Robot and Flo, we can't really figure out what. Then I'd probably still say Wild Robot would beat Flo if they were in the same category. But again, if anything last year has shown, it's that it doesn't really matter what's going on with the guilds. Sometimes the Oscars will just do their own thing. Regardless, Flo is going to win here, easy peasy. Then we get to the Costume Designers Guild Awards, and for Sci-Fi Fantasy Film, this is where we're going to start. We have Beetlejuice, Borderlands, Dune Part 2, Furiosa, A Mad Max Saga, and Wicked. Well, only one of these films is nominated for the Oscar, so it's Wicked. That's pretty easy. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. It's still funny that the Borderlands is here, even though the costumes aren't really that bad from what I've seen. But yeah, it's a shame that Dune Part 2 didn't get in the Oscar lineup. My God. For period film, the nominees are The Book of Clarence, Gladiator 2, Maria, Nosferatu, and Saturday Night. Once again, only one film here is nominated for the Oscar, and it's funny enough not Gladiator 2, but it's Nosferatu. Which I found interesting because A Complete Unknown got nominated for the Oscar, yet it wasn't nominated here. But then again, you know, A Complete Unknown was a very, very late-breaking film. It's very possible to imagine that the film had just not really been seen that much up to this point in the guilds. Because that sometimes happens with the guilds. Like, sometimes films will miss guild nominations and yet get the Oscar nomination. For example, Nosferatu didn't get a single nomination at the Makeup Guild, but when you take into consideration when the Makeup Guild nominees were announced and when Nosferatu was coming out, they probably didn't send enough screeners to the Makeup and Hairstylists Guild. So, yeah, and I'm pretty sure the same thing happened here with the Costume Designers Guild for Complete Unknown. Oh, wait, I stand corrected. Gladiator 2 actually did get nominated for the Oscar. Okay, so we do have a race. It's between Gladiator 2 and Nosferatu, but I still probably think Nosferatu wins because in terms of Oscar nominations, it was way, way stronger than Gladiator ever was. And plus, it doesn't have to worry about sequel bias. Like, it's still kind of doing its own thing. Like, sequels will sometimes not do very well at the Costume Designers Guild. Like, look at Black Panther Wakanda Forever. It ended up winning the Oscar for costume design, but lost the Costume Designers Guild Award for fantasy film to Everything Everywhere All at Once. So it seems like they are a little bit like, I don't know about sequels. So I do think Nosferatu is going to take it here. Then we get to contemporary film at the Costume Designers Guild Awards, and we have Challengers, Conclave, Emilia Perez, The Fall Guy, and The Substance. And only one film is nominated here at the Oscars, so I am going to say it's Conclave. Easy peasy. Yeah, there's not really much to say other than that. And with that, those are my predictions for the Writers Guild Awards, the Producers Guild Awards, and the Costume Designers Guild Awards, and the Annie Awards. Now, I'm going to pass the question off to you. What are your predictions for the winners for the awards I just mentioned? The Writers Guild, Producers Guild, Annie, Costume Designers Guild. Thank you guys so much for watching, and be sure you hit that subscribe button, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to wear costumes.